What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Heck versus Hell, where the truth we tell. Hello, welcome, everybody that are listening to this, wherever it is that you are seeing this at. I hope you're having a wonderful, lovely day, because it is the day the Lord has made, and we shall rejoice in it, right? So, I hope you're having an amazing day, amazing night, amazing everything, and living with that perspective of the hope and faith that we are experiencing. And if you are going through the trials and tribulations, still try to somehow find the joy in it. Try to somehow find the peace in it. Even though you may not see the good in it, remember that all things happen for the good of those who love Him. So, remember that. And for whatever updates, feedback, conversation, moves, plays, whatever it is that we are doing here on the Real Double Dose channel, go check us out at www.realdoubledosechannel.com, and go check out the blog spot too at www.realdoubledosechannel.blogspot.com. And also, we are releasing, if you're hearing this way in the future, you've already seen it and you see what it's producing. And if you are listening to this in a more recent time of its release date, we are releasing different artists for the extension of the Real Double Dose channel. There's going to be music that is, of course, faith-based, that is centered on Christ, that is centered through the true foundation and the only truth that there is. And there are there's some heat on there. There's some stuff that I be bumping to. I got that pre-release music, that little exclusive access. But be on the lookout for those releases. They are some bangers, to say the least. And I'll be having some of mine too. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be part of that release as well, which is something you should also look out for. Check it out. I still don't even know how I'm going to section it, how I'm going to work through it in terms of even the artist name. You already see it if you see it. But anyways, enough of that. Let's continue into this episode. And just as we see what is unseen yet, that is what we're going to be speaking about today in gaining sight. Okay, because gaining sight, I don't want to make this an episode about coming into the light, which absolutely has a huge portion of it. It's one of the main understandings of walking in faith, is being able to have sight, right? Being able to no longer walk in the darkness. But what comes along with that? What does that even mean? It means being able to see really the point of life, being able to see that this life is temporary, being able to see and understand that eternity is our home. That is where we will determine where we live. That is the real position of what we must do and where we must be placed and where we decide to. Because even now you can still decide to go to hell. If you no longer want to serve God and you intentionally and constantly keep pushing back God, that's another conversation for another day. But regardless, it's something that it gives us sight in the knowledge of what is to come. So this isn't more so of what is currently happening, because technically eternity isn't there yet. It's always there, right? But us being here, we are placed outside of eternity. Therefore, in the concept of time that God has created, it's in the future, right? So it becomes a complexity that is so beautiful at the same time, because on the other side of that, the main point of it is to become a visionary. Now, however you want to see it, however you want to paint it, however you want to call it, we are all called to that, to have sight. Right? Even the blind men were born for the reasons of glorifying God. So becoming a visionary is exactly what prophets were. It's exactly what kings were. It's exactly what so many people are and what a huge foundation of the faith is. Because even God himself, through the scripture, gives us what is to come. He gives us the picture, the image of the imagination of what we can see. Even one of the main quoted scriptures being Hebrews, right? Faith is belief in what is hoped for, but not yet seen. It's literally telling you, have vision, have the vision of it. Even whenever Christ told us to pray as though you have it. That's what these people call manifestation, right? Manifesting something. And I believe this is one of the biggest ailments, one of the biggest lack of principles that there is in the religious side of churches, is because they don't teach vision, because they have such a mindset, such a religious mindset that tells you manifesting is bad, manifesting isn't real, yet we have to have a target to move towards, otherwise we're walking blind. Right? Because even whenever it comes to Proverbs 29:18, which is really where this whole conversation came from, finally seeing this, finally connecting it and looking through the visionary standpoint of searching the scriptures, Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Right? And it's so mind-blowingly in our face that I can't believe I missed it for so long. And I know so many people have. And if they've truly seen it, I mean, like, how can you not see it no more once your eyes are open? Once your eyes are open to the revelation, there's no way you can't see it. Right? If somebody tells you that there's a certain logo that's stamped on every piece of food that has an accordance to certain synagogues of Satan put in the food, therefore they can identify what is edible to them and what is not. That should kind of give you a hint of what you should pick or what you shouldn't. I can't say it so blatantly because I have different constrictions of this not entirely being my platform. So I don't want to jeopardize that. But this is going to be conversations that we definitely have off the platform, that we have in different settings where I can speak a lot more freely. And, even if it causes arrest, even if it causes me to go to jail again, that's part of life. You know what I'm saying? If we getting persecuted for the kingdom of heaven, that's what it is. Now I'm getting persecuted for the right reasons, so let it be so. But I will not, without the permission of Lex, go into that conversation all the way. However, even with Revelations, we can see it once we see it. Where there is no vision, the people perish. What did Christ speak about? The blind leading the blind. They don't know where to go. They're just walking around in circles. Even whenever it came to Egypt, in a sense, it was Moses leading the people. And because of their lack of vision, they spent 40 years. What takes days trip to get to the promised land? They took a whole generation to get there because they were stuck in the past. Because there's 3 types of visions. 2 of them are somewhat interconnected. And remember, us being spiritual beings, all of them are interconnected. So all of this, from God's perspective, is happening all at once. It didn't happen. It's not going to happen. It's all happening simultaneously. It is, right? That's why God says, I am who I am. I am. That's the final aspect of it. I am. So God saying and setting that stage for understanding that eternity has no bounds, that eternity doesn't have a past, gets us more to understand that there is no circle when it comes to eternity. Eternity just is. When it comes to time, it's more linear. But even then, in some ways that we've even seen through different aspects, it's interconnected. Even whenever it comes to the lamb being slain before the foundations were laid of the world, right? In Revelations, it shows that God gave up his life before the world was even formed, which even in itself is mind-blowing to think about and try to comprehend, because before means, there was a time. So he had to first create time and then have the world be in place. And so it gets into this huge complexity, but the main thing about it is being able to see, because we can see memories, right? We have different things in going on in our mind. We can perceive the present, yet for some reason it is so hard to imagine the future, except whenever it comes to negative outcomes. It is so dang simple to imagine negative outcomes, which is absurd to me. Yet, when we try to imagine certain things that we truly know and believe, it doesn't even have to be an understanding of what God will give us and what he won't. It's the knowledge of knowing what is good and bad, having enough discernment for the simplicity of that. Now, yes, there are things that we need to grow in, and yes, there are things that may not be ordained for that time because you don't have the knowledge, wisdom, or discernment at that very moment. But there's other things that are so simple that like, how can we not imagine it? There's visions that God gives us, and we choose to rebuke because it seems like we're desiring, it seems like we're coveting, right? Going back to that religious mindset of, this is not good to see. You should not be looking at this, or you should not be thinking about this. It's all in God's will. Let it be God's will. Fall back and float on the water and let the stream take you. But God wants you to swim out the water. You know what I'm saying? There's different circumstances that we have absolutely no control over, and that's up to God. But 95, maybe 99% of every single thing that we do and every single outcome is either up to us or a partnership with God. Meaning, it will be blessed and God will lead us to that path, but we have to take the actionable steps to walk it. We can't just stand still and say, God, teleport me there if it is in your will. Yet you don't believe teleportation is real. You know what I'm saying? So there's holes in the faith that we need to have. But being able to see and becoming a visionary like that is one of the most crucial things that you can become in order to edify and uplift the kingdom of heaven. That is literally the reflection of God. Otherwise, there would have been nothing. If God was not a visionary, there would have been no creation. Right? I am God. And that's it. Nothing else. There's no story. There's no Adam and Eve. Nothing else. I am me. I see what I see, and it is me. There's no, I have to create. There's no, let me bring something out from something that is not. There's no, let me see. Right? That's living in darkness. So, understanding that we are the reflections of God means that we also have to be visionaries. That is a part of the process. We have to have sight. That is true sight right there. So even whenever it comes to accomplishing goals and missions, again, we have to have a direction, or else you perish. Where there is no vision, the people perish. It is so mind-blowingly simple that it kind of seems absurd. Like, this is one of the major keys that I realized and that I had an epiphany about, of serving God. Because from this stems how we steward the purposes, the talents, the gifts that were given and bestowed to us from the vision that we create. Now, absolutely, there's going to be things that you stumble into. But even whenever it came to Joseph, he still was given the vision and everything led up to it. Now, you got to remember, though, there's a difference from the Old Testament and the New Testament. Because in the Old Testament, technically, they were more so... We had the prophets, they were visionaries. King David, being a prophet and a visionary, was a visionary. And in order to have those high roles and high positions, you had to have a line of communication with God. For most people, they were the ones being led. For people that are chosen outside of that and elected for a higher role, there has to be vision. Because following Proverbs 29:18 is where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Meaning that's where you can be blissfully ignorant. If you're just keeping the law and that's all you do for the rest of your days, like Ecclesiastes says, serving God and serving the law for the rest of your days, cool. Hey, props to you. You're still getting into the kingdom. Maybe you helped a person from time to time and God used you in certain aspects, certain moments, certain encounters that you had. And you never became a visionary. You still made it into the kingdom of heaven. That's awesome. But this is a conversation for the people that rise above that. This is a conversation for the elect, for the chosen. The visionaries. Even whenever it comes to Steve Jobs was a visionary. I'm not saying he was a visionary for the kingdom of heaven. I really doubt that he was. Who knows? But nonetheless, he was a visionary. You have to have vision to get anywhere. That is one of the number one principles of success whenever it comes to different aspects of teaching, different aspects of people having that. Even whenever you go and you invest in stock markets, you have to have a certain vision for the outcome of a company in order to invest in it. That is why, literally why people invest. So whenever you have vision in yourself, and this is why I say that being a spiritual being also intertwines, because in our mind, whenever you start looking into neuroplasticity, whenever you start looking at the different teachings that people of the world have, that certain people have took from the kingdom of heaven in terms of principles and foundations and spiritual laws, they understand that if you envision something so much and so strong that your mind interprets it as a memory, it begins to interpret it as memory. It does not have a distinction. We consciously have the distinction of a past, future, and present because we were given that consciousness. But our mind is intertwined with our soul, and our soul does what the conscious mind tells it to do or what was programmed in it that we haven't changed. It does not have the conscious ability the way we do entirely. That is why it's called the subconscious, right? It's the program that runs you. It's the foundation that either keeps you chained or allows you to fly. So when you start looking at that, you see how intertwined and divine the creation of mankind is. It's glorious. Glory, glory, glory to the King of Kings, Lord of Lords. It is such a beautiful, I almost said anthropic. It is such a beautiful, accumulative, conscious creation that God has made. And for us to have the privilege of being called children of God, for us to be called kings under the King, queens under the King, for us to be made and created in His image is a blessing. That in itself is a blessing. You are being is a blessing. Who is man that you take mind of him? One of the most beautiful things David has ever said. And it's phenomenal the way that we continue to expand and explore. And I'm gonna be honest with you, hey, there's some things that I might have said in the early episodes that I don't agree with. But this is why I do not have a typical preaching style. This is why I don't want to be called Pastor Hector or Father Hector or any type of name in retrospect to what teachers are seen as in religious positions. Because number one, I understand that there's always going to be room for growth. There's always going to be more and more revelations that are unveiled through the continuance of our walk with God that could completely decimate a huge foundation that we previously had. So I don't want to have that title as though the words that I say are 100% certain, but there are certain ones that I do believe are 100% certain. That is included with this revelation right here and the need to become a visionary. So I love you all. I hope you have a blessed one. And as always, we will catch you on the flip side.